Hi, I'm Monica Cesarato, a food and travel blogger in Venice. Welcome to Venice Meets, a series of live chats from Instagram every day at 6 p.m. CET. Today I will be talking to Julia Curtis, certified yoga instructor and massage therapist with YogaVenezia in Venice. Hello Julia, how are you?
Ciao, ciao, ciao. Good afternoon, everybody.
Thanks.
I much prefer to talk about eating food, especially Jewish food in the ghetto. But
no, can I just say, okay, I actually love to talk yoga with you because I've been doing yoga for years and then I stopped and I haven't managed to go back to it because 4 years ago I was doing yoga at home by myself and I really hurt myself. So after that, I'm so terrified of starting again on my own. You know, and unfortunately, I live in the middle of nowhere, so I can't even go to say, you know.
Yeah, you don't have that excuse anymore. Now we all have to stay home and do yoga online. So
yeah, I'm so terrified of myself. So I want tips from you on how to do that.
I have students who've been doing yoga for 10 years, and I have, also people who are like 75 years old and have never done yoga before and have decided it's time for them to take care of themselves and do yoga at home. So all levels are welcome.
So first of all, who is Julia Curtis?
$1 million question.
Well, you definitely know Venetian. That we can say.
Sono veneziana niente.
No, you're Venetian, yeah, that's different.
No. I was born and raised in Berkeley, California. We're at a big university. My father was a professor of music and a director and conductor of opera. So ever since I was a very little child, I came to Italy often to visit him when he was working. I actually lived in Venice when I was 2 and 3 years old. And then after I graduated from NYU from college, I took a year off before starting Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies in Bologna. And I lived and worked in Venice then, which was many, many years ago. So although I'm not Venetian, Venice has always been a part of my life. Yeah. And, so I'm a native Californian, but with a Venetian cuore.
Yes, yeah, that's what I say. But it's one thing I actually, I'm from outside of Venice. I'm not from Venice itself, so they call me Campagnola, But, all these years I realized something, that I meet so many expats and I meet so many people like me that we live outside, but we work in Venice. And sometimes I think we are just as Venetians and everybody else because we love the city so much. So when did you start?
Things I love about Venice is, even in the time of Marco Polo, Venice was always a very international city. And it's an extremely important thing to remember. I mean, although I do find many Venetians extremely narrow-minded and closed in their view of the world, Venice would not exist if it weren't for being, on the water, an important international trade hub, a huge tourism hub, international city that it is, and I think always will be because of its unique geography, its unique history, its unique art and architecture. It will always be international. So I
always tell people, open a Venetian, just open, well, they don't have it anymore, but the days when we had phone books, just open the phone books and look at the surnames, Moro, Todesco, Franco. They're definitely not Venetian names. So, but they feel. So when did you get to Venice?
So I lived here when I was 2 and 3 years old, and again when I was 20 and 21, and now I've been here for the last 7 years, più o meno. So I came because I had a daughter, and I was working in Germany for a solar energy company, working on solar energy and climate change, which is what I've done for 20 years. And unfortunately, with the influx of Chinese solar panels, the company went bankrupt, and I ended up having my daughter, and I ended up basically being in Munich with no job, not a very understanding of German, and I didn't really like German food, and so I decided, well, it's time to go to Italy, because at least in Italy, they love kids. So It was right in many respects, and I was able to spend some wonderful times and wonderful years with my father while he was still alive living here. And he passed away a few years ago, but I decided after having returned to California and to see what life was like in the Bay Area, which has changed tremendously with the .com industry, that really, from certainly not an economic standpoint or a work standpoint or a professional standpoint, but from just the quality of life and where one chooses to raise one's children, Venice is probably the safest city in the world.
Yes.
And everyone says, oh, but she can fall in the canal and drown. Well, first of all, my daughter is an excellent swimmer, and she learned at a very young age to swim. But really, I mean, I think in comparison to other large cities or mid-sized cities in the world, Venice is probably the safest city to grow up. So that was a choice to come back to Venice. And then, of course, I also have a degree from NYU in art history and studied particularly 16th century Venetian paintings. So,
oh my God, it was like a heaven come. You know.
Yeah. So it is a very, very special, unique place. I feel very blessed to live here. The last 6 weeks have been tremendously difficult, but I'm so happy that I have the background that I do in yoga, because it's made me able to stay both mentally and physically and spiritually sane in these really surreal, insane times that we're currently living in. So my decision basically to come back here about 7 years ago was primarily for my daughter, but also for the love of this unique city that we live in. And I've been practicing yoga for over 25 years. I've been teaching for over 10 years. And it's a wonderful gift that I feel very privileged to share with other people, especially right now, because I think that this really bizarre time that we're currently going through is incredibly challenging on many levels. I mean, I think first and foremost, it really is attacking our sense of being. I mean, people are afraid of dying in a way that they've never been afraid before.
Yes, yes.
There are some yogis and some, in fact, I met a wonderful Swiss professor who is also in quarantine here in Venice right now. And he and his wife were saying how yoga is actually the ultimate preparation for death. Because what it does is it allows you to fully prepare your mind and body for full surrender. So
wow.
The last pose that you should, if you're doing yoga in a correct way, of course, there's over 100 different kinds of yoga. But no matter what you're doing, you should always end your yoga practice, even if it's for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour or 2 hours, you should always end it with a shavasana. And shavasana in Sanskrit means corpse pose, means the position of death. So I think that what yoga has provided me with is an ability to fully surrender and relax into what is.
And take whatever comes and just go with it.
Yeah, because it's fully and completely surrendering into the present moment. And the present moment that we're all living in is not particularly fun.
No.
If you have small kids and there's no school and you live in a small apartment and everyone's super crazy and it's challenging. So I designed some special courses, particularly for children and for children with their parents or their guardians or their babysitters or their friends or whatever. And I've also been teaching adults for many, many years. And I find yoga really helps me, again, on many different levels. I mean, there's the physical level, there's the actual fitness aspect, which of course is the very, very quote unquote American view of yoga is, doing, asana, like, oh, let me turn my body into a pretzel kind of thing. That's the American approach. So I've studied that, done that. I don't always like that. I don't think it's always helpful, but I have that background. And then there's the more spiritual background of yoga, which is really, I think, very, very important right now. I think being able to find your own sense of center and your own inner calm is really critical and useful in these current times. And then there's really the physical benefits, the medical benefits of yoga. So I started yoga because I was doing classical dance for many, many years, and I thought I was going to be a ballerina, and that was my life goal until I was about 15, and I auditioned for the San Francisco Ballet Company, and they said, well, you're excellent, but I'm sorry, we can't accept you. You're too tall.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, you see, I think a lot of us, not many, but let's say a lot of us dream of being a ballerina. Mine got crushed by the age of 10 by my weight, because I looked at myself, I was 1.50 m, but I was, let's say, already very round, and I thought, no, I'm never going to be a ballerina. I think I better be something else.
Probably like 80% of the females in the world think they're going to be dancers at some point in time in their life. And dancing is wonderful. I mean, I still dance all the time. I love to dance. But I was already at age 15, I was almost 6 feet tall. So it was like the pre-Balanchine, or no, it was the Balanchine years. So, ballerinas had to be they had to be shorter than their male companions. And especially when you go on point, you're obviously this much taller. So forget about it. There was no male ballerina that could dance with me. And therefore, my life goal at 15 was shattered. So then I did all sorts of other kind of dance. I did a lot of modern dance. I did a lot of jazz. I did East Indian dance. I did flamenco. And
wow.
In my, I don't know, probably 18, 19, 20, I was in college in New York City, and living and studying in New York City was super fun, but also pretty stressful. And I started psychologically just feeling the intensity of living in Manhattan, trying to do it everything and staying up like 20 hours a night and just like do. And then I found yoga, and it was like, whoa, I can still do for 20 hours, but if I do an hour of yoga, it's like a power nap, and I feel like I've slept for 8, so I think I'll do yoga. So that's kind of what got me into yoga. Was originally the mental physical combination, and I started studying BKS Iyengar, who was a very famous Iyengar, very, very anatomically precise, and it's kind of like starting dance with classical ballet. If you start yoga with Iyengar, you understand the alignment principles and all the muscles and why you do certain poses and the medical benefits of certain poses and the sequencing of certain poses and what you should do first and second and last and all that. So Iyengar was a great sort of foundation to start my yoga. But it's a huge, very, very inquadrato, very disciplined style, which after, I don't know, maybe 10 years, I thought was a little bit too disciplined for me as a California free spirit. So then I started studying something called Vinyasa Flow, which is sort of the more popular California,
Oh, you're gone. Wait. Hold on. Oh, yes, you're back on. Yes. Sure. Okay. Then I did Vinyasa Flow, and I did a lot of that, which is really fun and sort of a combination of dance and yoga and, a little bit hypnotic, but more study, and that was fun. And then I started into the more spiritual side of yoga and studied Anusara yoga, which if anybody knows Anusara yoga, you probably know of a guy named John Friend, who was the original founder, and then there was a big scandal. There seems to be always big scandals with these big gurus. So I don't have I think the problem is the word guru.
Yeah, exactly.
Usually.
Anybody who calls himself a guru, and I stay away from anybody that thinks that yoga is sort of
one way, and is one way.
It's funny because this is the first live chat I've ever done. This is the first experience I've had with Instagram, because there's part of me, there's like an inner conflict with me of being quote unquote famous or known for doing yoga, because for me yoga is seva, it's service. It's really something that I feel called to.
Oh, wait, you go on in the most important part. Hang on, say again. Okay, I just missed it. You were going in the most interesting part. Go on. It's for you.
It's for me. It's a gift that I feel I want to share with other people. So
yes,
it's sometimes I even have a hard time, you know, accepting donations or anything for my practice, because I feel like it's something higher than myself. You know, I shouldn't be making a profit off of it. Could you make sure that the Skype doesn't keep interfering with my phone, because sorry, we were having.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's why I like it. That's why I love doing it this way. Because
I was talking to her grandmother, but the grandmother kept calling me on Skype. So anyway,
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So getting back to seva, which is service, to me, yoga is something. It's not aerobics. It's not meditation. It's not an answer. It's not a solution. It's everything. I mean, the word yoga in Sanskrit means union, and it means the connection of everything. And how we start our yoga practices saying Om, you know, that is actually a Sanskrit word of how we're all connected and the union of all of us. And one thing that I've really found really interesting in this time of quarantine is that we're all in complete isolation from each other. And I can only speak for myself, but ever since I was a small child, I've been like an extreme extrovert. So the Myers-Briggs personality test, you know, I was like big E out there. So what does it mean to be an extrovert? It means that, you know, not only do you enjoy the interaction that you have with
you need
it's how to get my energy. Like I get my energy from having a discussion, even if it's just with them.
Julia, why do you think I started the chats? Why do you think I started the chat? People think I'm doing it for them. No, I do it for me. It's my recharge. At 6 o'clock, I recharge myself, and I know I go, oh, somebody's listening to me, or I'm listening to them, and if I'm okay. I know, totally get you completely.
So for me, as an extreme extrovert, I think this quarantine, this lockdown has been probably one of the most challenging things in my life. And I have, at first it was like, oh, but all my students, you know, I can't see my students. What am I going to do with that? I was like, oh, wait a second. We're in the 21st century. We now have like 6, 7, 10 platforms to talk to each other. So I started teaching online, and I prefer teaching with Skype as opposed to Zoom, because I can see the people better and I can give them corrections, and I can say, hey, try this or try that, or I can see, you know, the facial expressions, like, what is she talking about? Or, oh, I can't do that, or, oh, I don't like that. Those are things that when you're in a physical class with someone, you can pick up on instantaneously.
Of course.
But if you're doing it remotely, it takes a little bit more effort. But nonetheless, I have found a tremendous satisfaction in being able to offer this to other people right now. And right now, I have people from California, New York, London, Wales, Abu Dhabi, all sorts of places in Italy that connect with me and do yoga online, which is so cool that I can have people around the world and we're all doing the same thing and we're talking about the same thing. And, you know, that's a wonderful connection that, like, the quarantine has given me, because before that, it would never even occur to me to teach online.
And I think it is those connections that once the quarantine will finish, because we sincerely hope will finish, you keep, you know, this one way of doing things. I think this is going to stay. Maybe it will evolve in a different way, but it's still going to be the basis of knowing that you can, you know, I always said to people, but because people used to say, oh, you spend so much time on the internet. And I always said to them, there is a difference between spending time on the internet messing around, and there is a difference by using the internet. And I think now people understand that these are tools that can help us, not just to stay there and watch, you know, stupid things, but you can actually make them work for you. And in your case, I think is one of the most obvious cooking lessons and yoga or any other type of physical activities. They've been, you know, this is perfect, you know. So you actually, are you?
I would still rather do in person, because I want to taste what somebody else made as opposed to just what I made.
Yeah, but you know, okay, but put it like this: if you're somebody that doesn't know to cook at all, to actually see, rather than just reading it, and actually seeing manually gives a help. You know, I'm talking about, there's a large amount of people that do not know how to cook at all. So, you know, it's quite good.
I guess that's true. Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, I'll look at it that way when you not teach cooking. So when they come over, there's people that don't know how to use a peeler. Okay, they do not know how to peel a potato. That's basics. You know, but they are not that. So you are on the Giudecca with your center?
Yes, I'm on the Giudecca. I'm, let's see, I'll give you, would your viewers like to have a view of the canal of the Giudecca right now? Because you'll never see it like this ever again.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
But here we are.
Must be. Oh my God! Not one boat in sight. Oh my God!
There's one seagull, no boat. If you look on the fundamenta, there's maybe 2 or 3 people. One person with a mask on, of course. But yeah, it's so quiet and empty.
And what a horrible view you've got! Oh my God! We just went all. I'm pretty sure everybody online is watching, going like, "Oh my God, that is a view." You actually, your center is in your house and is in that place, so is fantastic.
I teach in various locations. I teach well when there's not a quarantine. I teach at the beautiful Serra dei Giardini, which is by Biennale.
Oh yeah, fantastic!
It's one of the few places in Venice that's surrounded by greenery. You know,
I know it's beautiful there.
Californian to have that connection with nature has always been really important. So I love the Serra, and then I also teach at Chiara Donna della Rosa's beautiful palazzo on the Fondamenta Nuova, which is just a beautiful, spectacular space as well. And I used to teach at the palestra of the Compagnia della Vela on San Giorgio.
Oh, okay, yes. Okay.
Yeah, I teach basically wherever I can find a beautiful space that inspires me and I can get students to go to.
Wow, fantastic.
I have to say that, again, Venice is a strange city to both live and work in, because I find the Venetian mentality is that everybody just sticks to their little cestiere. Like, you know, God forbid you should actually have to get on a boat and go 10 minutes to do something. Like, if you can just walk outside your door and do it. I mean, it's the same in Manhattan. It's the same in, you know, cities all around the world. I guess people go for convenience.
Venice is very particular on this.
Yeah, it's very particular. So you know, it's wonderful to be able to teach in my own home, but then again, sometimes it's really nice to leave my home and go teach someplace else. So we'll see what happens after the quarantine. But, you know, I have these beautiful spaces that I've been teaching in for quite some time. I've taught at the Serra dei Giardini for many years. And Chiara Donna della Rosa has been very kind. And I just started her teaching in her palazzo in the last, you know, just before the quarantine. So, and then I'm planning on several retreats, hopefully this summer, if we get some travel bans lifted. Also to teach in Sicily and in the Dolomites.
Beautiful.
Maybe in Austria. So there's a couple spots that I'm looking at for doing retreats this summer, because another thing that I've realized about this quarantine is that it's brought families together in a way that, wow, you're learning things about people you live with that maybe you just have either not chosen to find out or ignored for years, you know?
So, you know, they say that there's going to be a huge, actually, at the end of the quarantine in Wuhan, what actually increased was the number of divorces.
Well, I hope that that's not the case. I think it's harder to get divorced in Italy than it is in China. But
oh, don't tell me. It just took me 4 years just to get officially separated. That's all I can say. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in any case, I find yoga is really, really helpful on many levels. But on the personal connection level, it's helped me both with my partner, although he refuses to do yoga with me. But it does help.
Seriously?
Sometimes I get him to do a little bit, but it helps me also with my daughter tremendously. Like, we have fun together, we play. So it's a way to interact. Again, it's the combination of the physical and the mental and the spiritual. When I finish my yoga practice, you can ask my partner and my daughter, they will tell you that I am a completely different person. Like, wow. I probably... one of the reasons that I was drawn to yoga in the first place is I could feel it was what I needed. I tend to be, you know, an overdoer, an overachiever, like somewhat, you know, fanatic, manic, you know, go, do, you know. So first of all, moving to Venice where everything is much slower. That was one. But then, you know, I kept up doing that, like manic California and New York, got to do. And then all of a sudden the quarantine happened. I was like, okay, forget this. The world is telling me something. Stop.
Yeah.
You know, stop. And from an environmentalist standpoint, I think this is such a gift that we have. I mean, the lagoon has transformed. I mean, I don't know if I believe these videos of the dolphins that are in the lagoon, but I can tell you from my own window here, you know, the color of the water, I've never seen the color of the water look like this for the last 40 years, ever.
Talking about environment, you are probably, I mean, in one of the most beautiful locations in Venice, but for the last 6 months. But before that, wasn't exactly, because you are right in front of where you get those horrible monsters passing.
Let me tell you, I mean, this right here, that window where I teach yoga, right here, all of a sudden I could be doing, you know, yoga in my bikini, and then all of a sudden I've got 3,000 people from a cruise ship staring at me, and I'm like, oh, go away. Oh, no. It's like having 3,000 people in your living room. It's so invasive. I hate them. I hate them. I mean, the Grande Nave, I really hope, I mean, between what happened in Geneva and what happened with the virus and what happened with, you know, there's no reasons why they should just not be here.
There's still some cruise ships going around. I was talking with Paula Hardy from A Lonely Planet. That turns out 2 days later they closed The Lonely Planet. But okay. And she was saying to me that there were some cruise ships, and we're talking about a week ago, still going around with about 6,000 people on board.
Yeah.
My question was, why
but you know why? Monica,
you know, yeah, sorry.
Have you been to Marghera recently? Do you know what happened?
I can't get out. It's in front of the Cango.
The cruise ship company, La Costa, they construct their ships in Marghera.
Oh, I know that in Fincantieri. Of course, I know that.
So Fincantieri employs, I don't know, 20,000 people.
I know. He hasn't stopped.
All these monsters.
And they haven't stopped.
They haven't stopped. But what I was listening to a podcast recently on NPR. So when I miss California, I listen to my NPR podcasts, and they were talking about the difference of the quarantine in the EU versus the US. And you know, we have this idiotic president who doesn't understand anything, especially science on climate change or the virus. But in any case, now that I've made my political beliefs clear, my point being this, that every politician, and again, I worked in politics, I worked as a lobbyist for climate change for 20 years.
Oh, okay.
So when I wasn't a yoga teacher, I was trying to change the world by lobbying and trying to get legislation passed for clean environment and clean energy. And one of the things that is most surprising to me is that there are people in the US government, and I'm sure people in the Italian government, whose sole job it is to quantify the cost of a human life, right? So at what point in time, based on, so they'll do an analysis. For example, what I heard on this podcast was they will do an analysis of this particular piece of legislation, which is, say, you know, going to mandate that we have to have self-controlled seatbelts in cars. That's going to cost X. How many lives is it going to save? Is the amount of lives it's going to save equal to so that, you know, it's a whole cost benefit analysis. They have never done that for cruise ships. If they did that for cruise ships,
they would have shut them straight away.
Illegal. They would. Yeah, and you should have Jane D'Amato or somebody on your show next to talk about that. Yeah,
I wanted to ask her about, you know, we know each other only on Facebook, so I don't know her very well, but I love to. So I was actually thinking, it's just I'm a bit embarrassed.
Well, she likes to talk. We all like to be on our soapbox. I'm sure she would say yes, but anyway, my point is that with Fincantieri and with this economy, especially Rome, because Rome gets more money than the Venetians do for the cruise ships, but until we change that economic structure, and I'm hoping, very, very much hoping that this city will come to life in a new way. I mean, the Venetians are hurting. There are people who can't pay their rent. There are people who can't buy groceries right now. You know, we have no economic activity for almost 2 months. That hurts, right? But it also should give us an opportunity to step back and go, oh, here's a city that was 98% based on tourism. If you can't have tourism, what else can you do?
Exactly. Well, you see, Julia, but this is a big problem because, I mean, I don't know if Romana is still watching, but Romana wrote an article, and I said to her, make sure you tag the mayor and the tourist counselor, okay? The tourist counselor replied, so we said to her, look, isn't it time Venice started to send a message that, yes, everything is stopped, but we are here. We will be ready to welcome you back in a different way. It's too early to do something like that. And in any case, if you got any ideas, just send them to us. Excuse me. See, no, wait, that's not the point. My point is, I got idea. We are a lot of people that we have idea. What they want us to do is get ideas for them, take some of it, not the proper, you know, just to take a little bit of it, make them theirs, and then just say, well, we did a little bit. No, I'm sorry. This is the time for the city to start a committee, a proper committee of experts, not of politicians. People that know how to, you know, about proper sustainable tourism, of what, you know, scientists that know the damages of, this is what should be done. But what do they do? We just don't listen. That's the problem. So I think a citizen want this, but
Monica, we have the same problem with the Acqua Alta. I mean,
oh yeah, look at it.
In November, I've been here. I've seen Acqua Alta for 45 years in this city, and I was, of course, having studied climate science, I knew all about sea level rise. I was not surprised that it happened. What I was surprised at was the absolute inept response of the Italian government to address the problem. There was no plan B. There was no how you help the citizens. There was no how you evacuate. There was no what are we going to do next. It was all finger pointing. Oh, it's the Moses' fault. No, it's this fault. Oh, no, it's that politician. No, it's his fault. No. What are we going to do now? And Italian, I'm sorry to make
Go
here about a nationality, because of course not all Italians are like this, but for the sake of the argument, I've worked in this country long enough to realize that Italians sometimes have a very hard time organizing their way out of a paper bag. And what I mean by that is that it's a lot of talk and no plan.
Totally. You have to remember, okay,
luxury of sitting in a room and arguing and debating and pointing fingers for the next 5 years. We don't even have 5 years.
I know.
1 year to figure this problem out. Seriously, because the sea only continue to rise. And
next year is going to happen again. I know. I keep saying, it's really interesting because, as soon as they say, oh yeah, let's do something about it, and we come up with a way of wasting money rather than actually saving money, don't get me started on that way.
With this grand committee that you want to put on eco-sustainable tourism, which I think is a great idea, unfortunately, they have had that since the 1970 flood. They had a Gran Comitato that has done nothing, that should do something. All the climate scientists on sea level rise and all the engineers. And let's go to China. China knows how to fix this problem. The Chinese could come here. They could probably help us with the virus. They could certainly help us with the mose. And they have the engineering and the organization and the political power and the economic power. But the Venetians are so damn proud.
And it's not just the Venetians, Julia. It unfortunately is, it's an Italian trait that we do it always better than everybody else. And the trait is, what do you mean? You tell me what to do? And they don't understand that there is black and white and a lot of other shades, and we can learn from other people. Just because we're good, it doesn't mean we're the best. I think it comes from, this history of excellence, and we forgot in the last 100 years that excellence, sorry, I'm going to swear now, but it's gone to,
There are certain things that Italians do better than anyone else in the world. I agree. I mean, tortellini are best made in Italy. But let's talk about, where did tortellini come from? Marco Polo went to China, discovered Chinese dumplings, came back, they turned into tortellini, no? Più o meno? I mean...
Well, that's what I'm saying. No, I'm totally on... I'm totally now people learning from each other. Oh, you know, I lived in England for 12 years and I came back with a bit of you know, a mentality of a British mentality when it comes down to do business or customer service. And when I first came back, I was like, no. So I totally get it. I get it. But and I keep telling you know, in Italy is unfortunately until we don't wake up, and I hope it's gonna be a wake up call. I hope.
Teaching yoga in Italy has been quite challenging, I have to say. The Italians are definitely behind the curve when it comes to yoga. If I go to Germany or France or England or certainly the US, you know, there's yoga studios everywhere. There's grandmothers, there's, you know, 4-year-olds, there's men, there's women, you know, everybody's doing yoga in these other countries. And I have yet to figure out if it's because there's a direct conflict with the Catholic Church or with the idea of what your body's supposed to look like or doing exercise in a group or I don't know what is like.
I think it's almost three things together. I totally think it's always three things together. I mean, I got to say, you know, exactly because I lived abroad, so, you know, always done water aerobics and stuff. So when I started doing yoga, I've actually 4 years ago, so I hurt myself because I did yoga by myself, okay? But well, I completely pulled out an hernia. Totally pulled it out.
By yourself? Were you doing it with a video?
Yeah, but I didn't do it right. It's totally my fault. Totally my fault. I'm not blaming it on the video. I'm blaming it on me, but I didn't do it right. I'm pretending to do something I shouldn't have done. But what's happening is I've stayed 4-6 months flat on a sofa because I couldn't move. But then I went for a retreat in Slovenia. And there was a doctor there. She was she's doing a lot of acupuncture and stuff like that, and she was also doing yoga classes. And she said to me, "Look, I know you can barely walk. I was on crutches. I had a sciatic problem. I was terrible." She says, "But let me do a bit of acupuncture and come and do a couple of classes. I know you barely." I was doing a blog tour there. Just go. I will always thank her. In 2 days, I was back up, totally back up, just by doing certain.
With the right kind of anatomical understanding. I mean,
Yes.
I've had students come to me who could barely walk. I've had students come to me who had extreme sciatic nerve problems and were in lower back, shoulders, neck, migraine headaches, you know, a lot of problems. But I've also seen yoga heal all of those things.
Yes, yes, it does. It does.
Myself, I mean, I have had migraine headaches. I've had high blood pressure. I've had things that absolutely yoga has transformed that. And personally, I would much rather step back from big pharma and have to take medication for the rest of my life if all I need to do is 10 minutes of yoga asanas that will address that specific health problem.
Exactly.
Body.
I think also one great thing that makes yoga, I think, different of other sports is it teaches you to breathe. And breathing, people don't realize how important it is to get the right amount of oxygen. And I remember she told me, because I was taking morphine. The pain was so bad, I was on morphine, okay? But you know how hard it is before they give you morphine nowadays, it takes, so I was in pain. And she said to me, every time you go to bed, do these exercises with your nose, you see the slowly you need to listen, you know, you breathe in better and the pain will go. And it did work. And I was a bit skeptical at the beginning, but by being, you know, regular and doing it, it really, really works. So, you know, for me, unfortunately, I always say I want to do yoga again, but because I live in the middle of the street and I do weird times, it's a bit hard for me to go to a class. And another thing, I don't like doing in groups. I'm more of a solo person.
The nice thing now about doing yoga online is that no one has to see you. You're in the privacy of your own living room or wherever, garden, bedroom, wherever you want to do it, you know.
Yeah.
You can turn off your screen so that the teacher can't even see you.
Okay.
Seen, and you can do it basically right now, you know, everything's virtual. You can do, you know, yoga with a teacher in California at, you know, midnight your time, or you can, you know, whenever I'm teaching You know, if you go to yogavenezia.com or
yeah, I was about to ask you exactly.
yeah, you can see I teach early mornings. I teach it before lunch. I teach it before dinner. You know, I try to teach it at various different times because I know now with kids and work and the craziness of it all, you know, it's hard to keep a schedule, but I try to be flexible. But I have to say, in fact, one of my students, this wonderful student, she's Russian, but she's working now in the UK. And she just sent me a note this morning with a picture of her with this particular pose. And she said, remind me what this pose is called. I want to practice it before our next class. And you know, she said, I've been trying these yoga things on YouTube and doing this yoga video and that yoga video, but it's not the same as taking it with you because there is an energetic exchange, just like you were talking about being extreme extroverts and having the need for these, you know, online chats.
Yes.
When you have the ability to take a yoga class in the liberty of your own home with a teacher who's looking at you and saying, try moving your foot this way or protect your knee by pushing into your little toe. You know, these kind of little tips that if you take one of those yoga videos or you look at some, you know, yoga superstar on YouTube, they're not going to be telling you.
And you go like, I'll never be like that. Yeah. It's
and they're going, I can't do that, you know, like.
You have to do that, you don't do
spontaneously, but I don't know. I mean, I really believe that, as I said, yoga means union. It means we are all connected, and I share my energy with you, and you share your energy with me. And the nice thing about doing yoga in a group class is that you get each other's energy, even remotely. It's amazing. I teach people, as I said, all over the world right now, but even in those like 3-minute little times when we do an Om together or we say goodbye to each other, it's like, oh, how's life in London? Or, oh, New York is doing this, or, oh, we're having this issue here, or, you know, oh, the weather is rainy in Venice, oh, it's sunny in California, you know. It's those little things that bring people together, which especially in the time of quarantine, we need to know that we are together in this. And I think that yoga helps you feel more centered in yourself. And I think that especially the prana, you mentioned the breathing exercises. So that's a special kind of yoga called pranayama, which I have studied in depth because I think it's actually the most powerful kind of yoga. And it's something most teachers actually don't teach because it can potentially be very dangerous.
Oh.
You can hyperventilate, you can have you can faint, you can be like, whoa, you can feel
See, in fact, she told me only to do so many. She only said to me, you only got to do it. And it was a very limited amount of times I had to do it. So, yeah, well, she was a doctor.
There are certain pranayamas you can do before you go to bed. But if you do like Kapalabhati, breath of fire, before you go to bed, you won't sleep. It's like having a triple espresso before bed. So you have to know the right kind of exercises to do at the right time and how often to do them. But I actually love teaching them because they're very powerful, you know, because students will notice and they'll see in a very short period of time that, wow, Julia, I have so much more energy now. It's because you're breathing both nostrils. And it's amazing how much that small little thing can do to change the amount of oxygen that goes into your blood. All of a sudden, you feel like I just had 3 espressos.
I know. Oh, okay. Don't go. This is so interesting. Okay, yes. Listen, one thing I wanted to ask you. What's the difference between yoga for children? How does it differ? Is it so different from adults and, you know?
Well, you know, what's funny is that I have come to realize now that I am a mom and I've seen my daughter develop over the last 8 years, kids do yoga poses totally naturally. Like happy pose, which is lying on your back and sticking your feet up in the air like this.
Well, yeah, because they're very elastic.
It's called happy baby pose or dead bug pose. I don't like that, but it's called happy baby pose because babies do it all the time. It's actually babies in cribs, especially if, you know, their mother ate something weird and they're, you know, having indigestion because the breast milk tastes strange or whatever. It's a way of passing gas. It's a way of literally letting yourself digest food. And there's a lot of yoga poses and a lot of asanas that we do that actually kids just do naturally. Kids do candela, they do shirshasana, they do headstand, shoulder stand, naturally.
Yeah.
It comes naturally to them. So when I teach kids yoga, I try to, I often talk about animal poses because kids love animals. So, you know, dog, snake, rabbit, horse, you know, cow, all of these are yoga poses, monkey, lion. There are yoga poses that are named after particular animals. And so I like to, you know, find out what are the kids' favorite animals and do animal poses. And I like to do always a little bit of meditation because it's really interesting to me that, in fact, my daughter does karate too with a wonderful guy here in Venice, and he gets 20 kids who are age 8 to 10 to do silent meditation for like 15 minutes.
Oh my God, he's a hero. Oh my God.
I'm like, Christian, how do you do this? What is your technique here? This is incredible. I can't get my 8-year-old to do meditation for 15 minutes with me, and I teach yoga, right? But meditation is something that is incredibly powerful, and it's something that as an adult, we're thinking all the time. So it becomes harder to do the thinking, but as children, you haven't tapped into that consciousness of thinking all the time. So it's actually super helpful. And now they're finding in schools that if they teach meditation at a young enough age, the kids are much calmer. So they're much more receptive. They learn more. They listen to you more.
This is one thing I wanted to ask you. Do you think personally that maybe also teaching yoga to children, like hyperactive children that suffer from HDD, I can never say it in the right way. Okay, you understood.
Yeah.
I always get mixed up with the letters. We actually will help them, and it should be, you know, okay, that in Italy we're still way behind in accepting this situation, but it is one way for them to, you know, find one way to control themselves without having, you know, without maybe using less medicine.
Well, I think, first of all, I believe strongly, I already talked about how I think doing yoga and asana is much more powerful than taking pharmaceuticals. I mean, I think big pharma, especially in the United States, maybe less in Italy, but especially in the United States, everyone just wants to take a pill and make it go away. And I think that's wrong. I think that's very short-sighted. I think that's, you know, designed to make big drug companies a lot of money, but it doesn't necessarily help address the problem. So I think how to address the problem of hyperactivity, of attention deficit disorder, of I think it's combined. What I've noticed in Italian schools in particular is that they tend to do 1 or 2 hours a week of sportive or you know, anything physical, which is not enough for small children, not enough at all. I taught English in my daughter's elementary school here at Rainier Michel in Venice, and that's one of the better schools in Venice, but I was appalled at how little physical activity these kids are allowed to do. Kids are not meant to sit in chairs for 8 hours a day. They can't do it. And they shouldn't have to do it. I mean, we have our life to sit in a chair and, like, you know, be a cog in the machine. But that's not what kids are supposed to be doing, I don't think. And I think I actually did a proposal to teach yoga in the schools, which unfortunately the parents didn't want to spend the extra 10 euros or whatever it was to have their kid do that, which I think
but we're going to buy a very expensive phone, of course, that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. You can buy your Gucci bag, but, you know, not pay 10 euros for your kid to do yoga, whatever. All right, no judgment there, but basically I have seen it with kids, and I have a super high energy kid myself. I mean, my kid wakes up at 7 and goes to bed at 10, and she is like fully charged all day long.
Oh my God.
And some people say she's hyperactive. I don't think she's hyperactive. I think she's just a high energy kid. I think there are certain children who have more energy than others. And I guess I should be grateful because it's probably better that you have a kid that has more energy than less. Sometimes it's a little bit overwhelming as a parent, but I do see that when I get her to do yoga with me or meditate with me, or we go outside and we, you know, do the monopattino on the fondamenta and just like svogare and some energy, you know, just get it out.
Yeah.
Oof, it's so much easier to come home and do compiti. Like she can sit down and read after that.
Yeah, because she's got, yeah, of course. And that's not like productivity. That's just, as you say, a very energetic child. There's a big difference with children that are productive.
You know, she has a wonderful kid in her class who has several kids in her class who have learning disabilities. And when I was teaching English with them, I noticed that if I can get them out of their chairs and we can go, you know, do like head, knees and toes, knees and toes. Like, you get them to stand up and do things. After that, it was much easier for them to like, whew, listen.
Of course.
Yeah. So I do believe that yoga and exercise for little kids is really helpful, especially if you've got a high energy kid or a kid with some kind of learning disability. It helps them focus. And focus is what you need when you have any kind of quote unquote disability or problem or issue, if you're a kid or you're an adult. I mean, if you're an adult and you've got, you know, a heart problem or cholesterol problem or a weight problem or, you know, an attention problem or a depression problem or an anxiety problem, all of those things, I can give you asanas and yoga poses to help. So
talking about you can do that, right? How have you, did you manage to do the sign or not with your social media and things or not? Okay. Where can people find you? The website and on Facebook, and well, here they are watching us already. So
right. So I have, thanks to one of my wonderful yoga students, Elvira, who's a wonderful engineer. She's super technologically adept and and so she set up this Instagram account for me. So thank you, Elvira, for my wonderful Instagram account, and thank you, Siggy, another one of my wonderful yoga students who helped me with my website. So YogaVenezia.com. I also have a Yoga Venezia Facebook page. So basically between Instagram, Facebook, and my website, you should be able to find my schedule, which is pretty consistent. Sometimes I just added a morning class by request. So I'm teaching Monday and Friday mornings at 8 in the morning. I teach Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 10 for kids. And then I have a series of classes that I do at lunchtime and then also in the evening before dinner. I do recommend... You
do also some little videos as well. Am I wrong? Are you putting up little videos?
I do little videos. I do, you know, like a minute video. But, you know, I don't think that somebody watching me teaching you how to do a sun salutation on a video and then doing it at home is the same thing. I would rather make the investment. You know, right now my classes are basically donation based because I know we're all going through financial problems. So, you know, if you can't afford it, that's no longer an excuse. Just do it. Come and join us because it's good for you. It's good for your mind. It's good for your body. It's good for your soul. If you can afford something, that would be helpful and appreciated. But what I want you to do is take care of yourself in these strange times.
And the great things about doing online, you don't have a maximum number, do you? Because
exactly.
No, it's not like when you go...
Millions. Come, millions of students. Wait, we can all fit in my studio here. It's
exactly.
Amazing what technology.
Well, Julia, listen, what can I say? That was such a wonderful talk. And now I want to come over and take yoga in your bloody place.
C'è spazio per
No, definitely.
I know a lot of Italians, especially, you know, people who are older or who have body problems or knee problems or weight problems or cholesterol. I don't care what problem you have. We can find a solution with yoga. And that's one of the things that I've learned because I've studied various different kinds of yoga. You know, Iyengar uses a lot of props. So you have a block, you have a strap. You don't need a fancy yoga block. You don't need a fancy strap. You need, you know, a dictionary, a belt.
A mat. You do need a mat.
So the thing I like about yoga is you don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to, like, you know, buy certain clothes. You don't need a lot of equipment. You don't need, it's not Pilates. You don't need the machine.
You're just telling me all the things I love about yoga. And that's why I start doing it. And I just so regret now. I'll stop doing it. Now you make me want to join again. Okay.
Right. Well, I hope you will promise you will try it with me.
Yeah, now between 6 and 7, Bo.
Right, well, you've got other choices. You can do it before lunch or before breakfast. But I
I'll have a look on your website
before you eat. That's my only prerequisite, is that you come with an open mind and hopefully a belly that's not full of food.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and somebody said to me, and tell me, this is the last thing I'm going to ask you because the time is running out. Somebody said to me that it will always be better to yoga from the afternoon to the evening rather than in the morning. Is that true?
No.
No. Okay.
I think there's different times of yoga for the different times of day. So morning practice is much more vigorous, you know, sun salutations, like really getting your blood flowing, getting your muscles going. Then there's yin yoga, which is better for the evening before you go to bed, slowing things down, more meditative, more restorative, more, you know, lying in 1 or 2 poses for 15 minutes, as opposed to the dynamic Vinyasa Flow, which is like, let's sweat it out. So again, I'm a very eclectic teacher. I teach depending on the time of day, depending on the level of students I have. I teach in 3 languages. I teach in French, Italian, and English.
Oh, wow.
So it really depends on who shows up, what they need, how I'm feeling. You know, it's every class is different. I don't always teach the same way because I believe that every day is different. So.
Well, Julia, I can't wait now to come over and have a drink with you as well. We definitely got to do that. Listen, it was really, really nice talking to you, and thank you so much. And let's hope this quarantine.
Okay, I'm going to give your viewers just one last little view. So a lot of your followers are actually.
Oh, wait, you're gone.
Up there's one boat. That's the Cartagena. That's the police boat. Oh, up.
Wow,
sorry.
Look at that.
Can you see there? That's
yeah, we can. Yeah.
That's the police boat. So we've got one police boat. And it's a very see, even the weather. Like, I would teach a different kind of yoga today because it's a very windy day. It's a very like emotionally turmoil day. But yoga is great because it helps you deal with your emotions too. So we're all going through this like crazy roller coaster of like anxiety and, oh my God, am I going to wake up and, you know, have the virus, or what do I do? And oh my God, my bank account, all my investments just went crazy.
That's more like my worry. That's more like my worry. I'm not really
we're all human and we have the same worries, and that's how yoga is helpful because, you know, yogis have been doing this for thousands of years.
Yeah,
maybe the level of anxiety and worry we have now is more than it was 1,000 years ago because they didn't have the stock market, they didn't have the virus, but they had other things. You know, people have been worrying for centuries about things.
Yeah, well, they were going around. They were going around with swords and chopping heads off. So supposing that was a big worry. Julia, thank you so much again, because I'm running out of time. Otherwise, we're gonna cut off straight away. Thank you so much. And I'll speak to you soon.